Well, Pat, somehow or another, you have managed to be the first presenter in this space. You've even gotten ahead of me somehow strategically in this. I want to welcome everyone to CMS and our new spaces. It's been interesting to be in the middle of a very large construction project during a pandemic. I'm sure just like all of you in your businesses and within your organizations, we've had no issues with staffing, supply chain, costing, no surprises at all and no delays. It's just all been pretty darn easy. And you all know that I'm lying right now. It's been an interesting time to do this. And but even with all those challenges, and we have a few pieces of equipment and finishing touches that are being completed, I'm honestly just thrilled to be in here with you today, and glad you got to see some of the spaces. I want to thank my presentation partners before I begin here with Rick and Pat. This is always fun to do this each year. We work closely, not just today, but throughout the year. And I just, as a member of the Chamber of Commerce and a board member, as a resident of the city, I so appreciate their work and their leadership and ongoing collaboration. I also want to say thank you to our middle school staff, our district staff, cabinet members, for being here today and making this happen. I specifically want to point out Principal Swanson, who's standing off to the side, the principal here at Central Middle School, and then Jason Munzenberger, who's sitting to the back here, who's spearheaded this whole project. His teams have been fantastic to be able to get this ready for us today. I also want to take a moment just to recognize board members that are present, and if you would just stand, I want to thank them for their leadership. Chair Seidel, you can just remain standing. Vice Chair Casper, Director Pagan Umar, Director Ross, and Director Strail. Thank you to them for all of their leadership for the district. Our mission in Eden Prairie Schools is to inspire each student to learn continuously so they're empowered to reach personal fulfillment and contribute purposefully to our ever-changing world. And I will tell you, as a mission-driven organization, our mission has never been as important as it has been during this pandemic. It's provided a lot of clarity in times of pretty significant ambiguity over the last year and a half to two. But it's provided us with a constant reminder of who we serve and what we do. We serve our students on a daily basis, and what we do is we work to inspire each of them. And I'm so proud of our committed staff and the work that they've done. And that's being recognized by our parents and community as well. During a pandemic year, the commitment of our staff and the focus of our staff to serve our students has been recognized with some of the highest ratings from our parents of any district across the entire state. This is during a pandemic where our families continue to report being welcome when they come into our schools, an incredibly high rating of quality of education, trust in to do what's right for kids in a time when there's lots of contention about what that right thing is, high quality around technology and digital resources, and that we really deliver on a great value for our students. This translates into one of the highest quality teacher ratings in the state. We have absolutely amazing teachers who care really deeply. And speaking of care during a pandemic, care takes on many meanings, new actions, and creates some stories. We've run numerous vaccination clinics in partnership with Hennepin County and created access for families who wanted to make that choice to be vaccinated. This photo was actually recently taken at Eden Prairie High School, and we've had incredibly high participation by families, and these opportunities have been available to our whole community. In fact, the first clinic that we actually hosted was for our first responders inside of the community back in December, over a year ago. And I just want to say a big thank you to our city staff and our first responders who are here and are committed to making sure that we're healthy, safe, and cared for as a community. That's one of the wonderful things about being in Eden Prairie, and I appreciate that partnership that we have with our city as well. We do have another clinic on February 9th, so if anyone is interested and needs a vaccination or booster, that is available for everybody in the community. We all know that vaccines are not the only part of this story. People are getting COVID, and it's critical that our students, staff, and families can test. We delivered over 1,900 COVID tests just during the winter break to help keep our kids and families safe. And I had multiple calls from colleagues around the metro area saying, how did you do that? How did that work? We're leading in how we make that happen as we focus on keeping our schools open and our kids and families safe. Shortly after the return from winter break, we were able to offer and distribute KN95 face coverings to any student or staff member who wanted one. Again, we were leading in that space to get those out as a district. Our team's amazing and have implemented numerous strategies to keep our spaces and places safe and clean. And that's just one part of keeping our schools open for our kids. And we know that is so incredibly important because we're a hub and a critical resource for so many of our kids and families. For many of our students, our nutrition services programming is not only important, but really necessary on a daily basis. And during the pandemic, that's expanded. We've been serving more meals throughout this pandemic than we ever have before. To accomplish this, we've had lots of people step up, including volunteers from our community and help and support from our community partners. I want to just thank PROP and the Eden Prairie Community Foundation, our other nonprofits, for partnering and supporting our students and our families during this time. But with all of that, the pandemic really hasn't stopped us one bit. 2021-22 was one of the most important starts of any year as we welcomed all of our students back from lots of breaks and changes last year, and we brought them all back to in-person learning. At the same time, we had lots of transitions taking place as we've been working to realize that 10-year academic vision of designing pathways that was created by our community. And so this has been a really exciting start to the year. We're in year 5 of implementing that 10-year vision. That vision called for increasing opportunity and access to early learning opportunities and experiences for our students to be able to engage in real world, authentic and hands-on learning, to have more choice inside of their educational experience, to see themselves in their learning and be prepared for life and careers that don't exist, while also developing their gifts and talents and interests. That's been a core of designing pathways as we've worked towards that implementation. This year, our Little Eagles moved into our neighborhood elementary schools, increasing access and opportunity. Our enrollment in Little Eagles has never been higher, and we're so excited to have our youngest learners connected with our schools right away. Our principals, staff, and teachers love it as well because those relationships begin right away, and that will set up our Little Eagles so well as they go into their future. Our Little Eagles have environments that are very specifically set up for them, and they have transportation for our half-day programming as we think about how do we eliminate barriers for our students to make sure they can get into that high-quality programming. The expansion of Little Eagles was possible in part because of the academic vision that the community had for our 6th graders. Our community wanted our 6th graders to have a robust middle schooling experience, and this fall we welcomed them to this building and to our new spaces. When you walked in, you may have seen it off to the side, filled up with some of those 6th, 7th, or 8th graders. We have a new cafeteria space, but it's not just used for eating. It's also a great place for learning or work, studying, performances. It gets used both before and after school and by groups outside of the school day as well. We have flex spaces that support collaboration, critical thinking, group projects, real-life problem solving, and you may notice some of those spaces as you walk in and out of our building today. Those are the skills and traits that when we do talk with our business community, they come out as the top things that businesses want our students to be able to do. Our new classroom spaces are changing the ways we think about how a classroom should be and are empowering our teachers and students to bring a little bit more interdisciplinary approach to their work. We know movement and health is key to a great education and life, and we also know that our community desires spaces that support healthy lifestyles. And so we added additional gymnasium space that's an asset to our school, but also an asset to our community. And we know exploration of careers and industry through hands-on learning inspires so many of our students. So they have access to see not only traditional academic roads or paths or careers, but other more hands-on ideas as well. And hopefully one of the things that you hear is, for me, what excites me is not necessarily the actual spaces, but how it's translating into the learning experience for our students. During their middle school experience, we want students to have a chance to explore and have lots of choice. Our Designing Pathways vision came to life this year at CMS through a series of new courses in various pathways across business and management, engineering and technology, communication and entertainment, civic and social services, and natural applied sciences. And I want you to hear a little bit directly from our CMS community.
The vision for Pathways was to give kids a system that would allow them to explore, experience, and learn about possible future careers. Another really cool part about Pathways is that we intentionally set it up so kids could be more purposeful about the classes that they would take as they matriculate through our system in Eden Prairie. We haven't had these pathways at CMS before, and so we're actually sending kids prepared differently now to the high schools. Having experienced classes in business and management now, and engineering and technology, and different arts courses.
Students are able to find a way to connect themselves to curriculum and assignments that they are working on, and then use the tools that we teach them to then go out and solve everyday problems.
We are really challenging students to figure out how they can make a positive impact, and that really kind of puts a different lens on the conversation about opening your own business or being a business owner or a business manager. And so being able to teach everything through that lens, the effect that you have on other people and those around you, has really brought a fun element into this curriculum.
This class has inspired me in taking a role in leadership. It's taught me a lot about it, and it's got me thinking if I should try to be a leader when I grow up and go into a business that I generally prefer.
The highlight of this classroom for me has been doing a lot of the assignments. They're usually pretty fun and put in a fun way to do.
A highlight of the class, one of the lessons that I really liked was we took this personality test, I think. This personality test told us what business cluster we would best fit in and what career would best fit it.
Seeing the students develop as critical thinkers, collaborators, problem solvers, and starting to understand why certain business decisions are made, and making the connections with what they're doing in the class and what's really happening in the real world. Realizing who is affected, why they're affected, and how we can solve real world problems.
It's really changing things for our kids. And our kids now have fantastic new choices, courses, and careers that they get to begin to explore inside of the middle school. Because then they get to the high school and their options expand and go even deeper. Next year, our juniors and seniors will have 6 capstone courses that they can access. I'm missing the slide here. And this will provide them with some really authentic hands-on learning in a whole new level. And we're going to continue to build out these capstone courses over the coming years with pathways that support them. And so I'm going to show a short video here from our high school where you get to hear from some of our students and staff who have been in capstones that were launched this year as our inaugural year.
Hello, my name is Rohit Wilson.
My name is Cole Nelson.
I'm Luke Bouchard. Entrepreneurship is all about learning how to start a business and execute. We start out by finding target market and learning different selling tactics and figuring out how the best way to implement those ideas in our school would be.
I connected this into my life, especially with a class I'm taking right now, known as the Senior Internship Program. And I connected with taking what I've learned from this class through networking and putting it in for college, for interviews, for job shadows, and for even real-life jobs.
In this class, we had to do a little bit of everything. So we had to do a little bit of marketing, a little bit of accounting with all our money and finances and all that stuff. And it kind of showed me which path I want to pursue, which is now changed from what I originally thought it was.
Entrepreneurship, the class is a 2-term capstone class. So students will have had to take a couple of courses, 2 or 3, before they get to that point. So the first term that they have entrepreneurship, they spend their time getting into teams, and their primary goal is developing a business. So they're talking to their customers, figuring out what they want, if they'll buy it, how much they would pay, and where to reach them. So everything really in the marketing mix is what they're looking for, and if they are successful, when they launch their business in the second term, which could be online, but most of them sell here in the Commons, they run a 5-week business as a team. They analyze their performance every week, and then they make decisions that impact the profitability of their business. And so they set goals and they measure them every step of the way.
But it's not just about capstones. Our Eden Prairie High School students have access to the most expansive course catalog to choose from in the state. There are hundreds of choices, and it keeps evolving. And the coolest part is the way it evolves is based on student interest. We want each student to find something that taps into their gifts and talents, but while also stretching them to grow and learn something new about themselves. You can see a few of the newer courses on the screen up here, and I tell you, I would have loved to have some of those back at the time that I was in high school. This takes being able to access that incredible content and experiences requires a great foundation, and our elementary schools provide that. Since the bond was passed in 2019, we've gone to work updating spaces and experience for our students in those schools as well. This prepares our students with 21st century skills and the academic foundation and skills they need to access those amazing opportunities as they enter CMS and EPHS. I'm going to show one last little video clip here that features Principal Thames to share a little bit about what's going on in the elementary schools with some of the updates to the learning environments that are underway.
So I think with teaching, it is all about flexibility. This flexibility of how your lesson's going, what the students are learning, how they're engaging in the lesson. I learned a lot about how to give choice and how to have your learning environment reflect student learning. I think that this furniture brings out a lot of that flexibility of students being able to use choice and be able to move around the room and really figure out how they're learning best. Do they want to read in one of our reading cubbies because that's where they feel safe and like they can engage in a story? Or do they like sitting on the stairs and being a little more flexible? Do they like standing at their table? So I think it provides so much flexibility in their learning and how they really soak up that information.
So we've been doing learning environment classrooms for several years now, and really it has taken off. More and more classroom teachers are doing it because they're seeing the benefits that it has. I feel like it's making a difference for students in the sense that they get to choose what works best for them. The way that the classrooms are set up are for students to do less of that individual work, but really more of the collaboration work that we're looking for. I think the mental model has changed in the sense that teachers aren't just seeing themselves as the one who are giving students information. They are more facilitating the learning of their students and then giving students that opportunity to take charge of their learning. Whether that's collaborating in small group, figuring out who they're going to be working with, whether that's, they need their own personal space to do some of the things that they're working on within the classroom. Students could choose their best learning environment for themselves. I'm grateful that our teachers and students now have that opportunity.
This doesn't happen in most communities. We have a really special community that is so committed to education, our students, and to each other. These spaces and places happen because in 2019, the community came together to support a bond for building. The dollars from that bond have been carefully invested into the infrastructure that supports our students, our families, and community. But those dollars are not and cannot be used for our day-to-day operation. Those were for bond for building. The levy for learning that was passed back in 2014 is what supports those investments we've made in the day-to-day educational experiences for our students. It's hard to believe that that was over 7 years ago, but that has provided us with financial stability that's allowed us to continue to work towards realizing that vision, that academic vision of designing pathways set by the community. I just need to say a big thank you over and over for investing in our kids and into the future of our community. And while the community has invested, what's even better as a resident and taxpayer myself is the value and the return on that investment is incredible for our students. I know that Rick often has this as well, but you can see where our taxes are on that average home compared to some of our neighboring communities that we're often compared to. And then you think about the experience that our kids have. Year after year, we are the lowest or among the very lowest class sizes for our kindergarten and first grade students. This is one of the promises that was made during that levy for learning over 7 years ago. But that means that our kids are ensured a great foundation as they start into the system. And thanks to our staff and with support from the board, we've continued to invest into our 2nd through 5th grade class sizes, including what we're looking at for budgeting for this year, to ensure that our earliest learners, our young learners, are really prepared to take advantage of the amazing educational opportunities ahead of them. We use a balanced whole child approach to assessment, and every year we monitor our progress. Even during a pandemic year, our staff supported our students in amazing ways, and over 75% of our 3rd graders were on grade level target for reading last year. And we just narrowly missed our goal, which was actually set pre-pandemic. Our goal for this year is that 80% of our students are demonstrating proficiency, which would be fantastic. And I know that our staff are really committed to achieving that goal. When you're committed to each student and high levels of success, it translates into results over time. An example of that is our continued improvement in graduation rates for each of our students, and that's due to the commitment of our high school staff to each student and working with each student to make sure that they reach those high academic standards and are able to graduate. This results in our students completing a fantastic education here in Eden Prairie and being so well prepared for whatever is next. We consistently hear from our graduates about how prepared they were and how they noticed that that's not the case for their peers from around the state and the country. We'll continue to build on that success, and I'm excited to see how our Designing Pathways community vision is fully realized over the next 5 years. As we continue through this year, we're going to remain focused on our mission to inspire each student. We're doing that through personalizing learning experiences, working to eliminate predictable achievement disparities, and engaging stakeholders throughout that process. As that relates to community vision of Designing Pathways, it means we'll continue to expand capstone and pathways experiences at the high school level, expand authentic ways that our middle school students can explore, and at the elementary level, we're in the process of expanding choice through our Inspired Choice programming that will be coming online. We're also continuing to work towards increasing access and opportunities for our little eagles. We have a tradition of excellence, and that exists because of the amazing commitment of this community. I am so thankful to our community and for the tremendous support that has been provided for our schools over time and throughout this last year. Throughout the pandemic, that sense of community has really pulled us together in lots of ways. And when you watch some of the things that have happened in other communities, that hasn't happened here in the same way. And it's because we appreciate and celebrate and share gratitude for each other. It's one of those things that does each other good. It inspires, it's healthy for each of us as well. And so I want to invite you to join me in sharing gratitude and spreading that sense of community. We're going to have some staff members who come through here during the transition to just hand out some little gratitude cards. And I would invite you to just think about somebody, whether it's personal or in your business, that's supported you over the last year. And just take a moment to jot a quick note. Send it off. Share that gratitude. And I want you to hear clearly from me that gratitude that I would extend to you. And thank you for being here today and supporting our schools and our students.